This is It's American Press, a revolutionary coffee maker that basically changed the way French press was done, but don't call it a French press, it's American Press. The press without the mess. Trademark, a registered trademark. So this is just a quick look at what the brew process looks like, but let's take a look at what comes inside. You can see their motto here is, "It's the press without the mess." I like it. And there's just a few of the features listed there, but eco-friendly reusable pod, that's a shot at Keurig and Nespresso. Pressurized extraction is kind of the name of the game here with what makes this coffee maker especially unique. And there's some quick instructions there on the side. And pretty nice, elegant packaging here, but you would expect nothing less from a coffee maker that is about $70. So let's take a look at what comes inside the box. Really not much. Here's the coffee maker, which is beautiful if you ask me. The body is made of Triton, not glass, so that's a BPA-free plastic, and it's well insulated. You also have this little instruction slip that you can take a look at. They recommend a pre-infusion time of about 30 seconds. Once you start to disassemble It's American Press, you'll see that there really aren't too many parts. You have the ground coffee chamber or pod that disassembles and reassembles really easily with this latch here. And then you have a filter that's also on the top of that pod that I'll show you a little bit later. But this is the pressing action that the coffee maker uses to brew coffee. Of course, you'll want to have some coffee and water in there before actually brewing. So let's take a look at each of the individual parts that make up It's American Press. First, we have our Triton carafe. It is all Triton and BPA free. It has a max fill line indicator as well as up to 12 full ounces. You can get about 14 ounces of coffee out of this bad boy. We also have our pod, which has a 100 micron stainless steel filter, so very fine, as well as the upper filter, which goes at the bottom of our plunger, and that's usually going to stay in here, but it does pop out for cleaning purposes. Also 100 microns. That's basically everything disassembled right there. So let's do a quick little brew demo, shall we? This is a look at the first time I brewed with It's American Press, and they recommend that you use about 18 to 22 grams of coffee in your pod, and so I weighed out just about 20 grams here for starters. And you are going to simply disassemble your pod, and I would recommend ideally that you use a funnel. I used an AeroPress filter here because you can see I was struggling just getting the coffee in that small space. So I guess you can say that's kind of a downside of this. It can be a little bit tricky to get that coffee in such a small space. And of course, if it gets around the edges like that, you'll want to wipe it off so it doesn't somehow mess with the latch that you're going to need to be secure. So you'll level it out and want to make sure that that coffee bed is pretty flat. You're not going to tamp it, but just make sure, as I said before, that all grounds are off the sides before you start to brew. Next, latch the pod. Make sure any excess grounds are off the sides, and then set your pod aside and get ready to add your hot water. Now, when you're adding your hot water, you can choose to use a scale if you want. You can see here that I'm filling about up to the 12 ounce mark, and that equates to about 345 grams. I use 20 grams of coffee, if you remember correctly, but the fill line indicators are good enough in my opinion, and it will get you the ratio that you're after. So first thing you're going to do is pre-infuse for about 30 seconds. Of course, you can adjust this time to your taste, but pre-infusion basically means that you're going to press down on the pod just a little bit, and some coffee will start coming above the top filter into the upper chamber. You're going to wait about 30 seconds, and I suggest using a timer. I have one that's built in to my kettle's base. And then you're just going to complete the press. And usually you're looking to target about 2 to 3 minutes, but you'll want to adjust to taste. If you're going to be using the same grind every time, then of course the biggest variable will be how fast you press and how long you pre-infuse. And then that's it. You finish pressing, you can go ahead and pour your coffee right away. It makes about 12 ounces of coffee, and that equates to about 1 American-sized mug. But in terms of cup sizes, this is technically a 2-cup coffee maker. And then finally, the cleanup is really simple. You're just going to pull out and make sure that you do this ideally when it's cooled off a bit. There's going to be a little bit of excess coffee dripping, so you can just tilt it to the side like that. And then I'll just show you real quick. Unlatching the pod. Just as easy as it was when we added our coffee. And then you just knock it into your compost or your trash if you're a bad person like me. Finally, you just rinse off in your kitchen sink and you're ready to go again. Of course, you're going to want to clean out the carafe a little bit, but that is as simple as rinsing, and I haven't found any staining so far. So compared to glass, this is kind of a benefit because it doesn't stain as easily in my experience. So let me break down what I like about It's American Press. For one, it's easy to use. Just add your hot water, press down your ground coffee, and you've got a full cup of 12-ounce piping hot, delicious full-bodied coffee that is sediment-free. It's also portable, has a small footprint in your kitchen, so you can take it on the road with you and it won't be obtrusive. It's easy to clean, which I already showed you, just takes about 10 seconds really. The coffee, like I said, is full-bodied and sediment-free. It's BPA-free, the silicone in it is food safe, and the only other material is stainless steel, which everybody I think is pretty comfortable with. And then the last thing I really like about it is that it's fun to watch. If it doesn't impress your guests, then I'm sorry, but they're boring and they suck. Of course, if you have any guests over, they're probably not going to get to see It's American Press in action because it frankly is not a very practical coffee maker for making more than 14 ounces of coffee at a time. It is mainly just for 2 people at most, and that kind of segues right into what I don't like about this coffee maker. For one, I think it could be bigger, or at least they could have a bigger version that could make more cups of coffee. I also think that it's pretty expensive for a manual coffee maker. It retails around $70, and that is going to be tough to justify for a lot of people. Also, it can be pretty difficult to press at times. I found that if you don't have the grind just right, it really is tricky to dial in that brew time, and as such, it's tough to find out what is the perfect grind to use for this coffee maker. They suggest somewhere between medium and medium fine, but you're going to have to mess around with that a little bit to find something that works well for you. And then finally, it is not compatible with AeroPress paper filters or any type of paper filter for that matter. Of course, I found that it didn't really matter too much because the coffee is mostly sediment free. So wrapping this review up, who is It's American Press for and who is it not for? Well, if you are a traveler, particularly somebody who travels alone frequently, and you like French press coffee but can't stand the mess and the sediment, then I think It's American Press is an excellent option. Really close competition with the AeroPress. In fact, it makes a little bit more coffee, so that might be a selling point in itself. And I think that overall it just looks really nice, doesn't take up a lot of room, and if you like great tasting coffee, it's a great option for a fuss-free manual brew method. Now, who is it not for? I think it's not for somebody who wants something that's more automated, doesn't want to have to put some elbow grease into the press, which could be tricky at times, and somebody that generally doesn't want to spend more than, say, $25 on a coffee maker. Of course, if you're hosting a lot of people or require more than 1 or 2 cups of coffee at a time, then it's probably not for you, but I wouldn't say that you should count it out entirely, because as soon as you finish brewing the first 2 cups, you'll be ready to brew the second 2 cups after a very quick and easy cleanup. So thanks so much for watching this review. If you have any questions about It's American Press, of course you can leave them below or in the written review, which is linked in the description. I would also love to hear what you think about It's American Press. If you've tried it, you can leave your comments, of course, in this video, or if you prefer, you can leave a full review over at the bottom of the written review. So thanks again for watching, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please make sure you do, if you like coffee, that is. Cheers.